Hey everyone, hope you had an amazing week. I am here today without, I don't refer to him as lovely, he refers to me as lovely, but I am here today without my co-host, Tony Matar. I'm not exactly sure what Tony is doing this time. Honestly, I don't know. Golfing, Disneyland, I can't even guess. But we want to welcome you to Pastors Unfiltered. I have a very special episode for you today. This is going to be all about the Venture Internship. One of the things that we're hoping is that if you are a prospective student, maybe you're a parent and you're checking out our internship, we hope that from hearing from our intern director and some of our interns, this becomes a very valuable resource for you. I want to take a moment and welcome our sponsors, Logos Bible Software. I have been told a couple times now, you don't provide the promo link. If you go to logos.com/weareventure, there are free books that you can get. And you also, by doing that, get 30% off their regular price. So check out Logos. It's amazing. Apparel company that we want to shout out today is Cowboy Cool. I'm wearing a Cowboy Cool shirt, hat. Go on cowboycool.com, and in their promo code, you can write Fight Pastor, and you can get 20% off on Cowboy Cool apparel if you're interested. Well, my lobby moment for this week is really simple. I was sick. Probably shouldn't have preached, but I made a decision to speak on Sunday because I loved the message that I wrote, and I wanted to preach it really badly. So I preached and went and hid in my office, and then preached again, hid in my office. Before the third service, some of the media team asked me to change outfits, so I put on a jacket, went out, and the jacket made me so hot I almost passed out on the platform being sick. So that was beautiful. So my lobby moment is I wasn't feeling well, but I'm feeling much better now. I do want to thank the hundreds of people that came up to my wife in the lobby and gave all these suggestions on what I should do to get over a cold. My favorite one was wiping honey on my chest. Where did that idea come from? The 20s? I mean, who does things like that? Today, I want to introduce you to my co-host today, which is none other than Claire Rasar.
Thank you, everyone. Pleasure to be here.
Claire, one of the things that I did get fact-checked on by several people was a couple of weeks ago, in a very spontaneous moment, Tony and I might have referred to you as having a smoker voice.
Yeah, you know what? I want to respond to that because I want to say that throughout the podcast, you guys can listen to me talk and let me know if you think I have a smoker's voice. I proceeded to come into Pastor Brandon's office later that week and say, do I seriously have a smoker's voice? Then he said, no, either him or David said that I have a really deep voice. So then I said, I have a deep smoker's voice, which I don't think either of those things are true. I think I have a very medium voice.
So believe it or not, multiple people came up to me and commented that next week about Claire's voice. I heard this from two different people, which it might not mean anything to like people your guys' generation here, but two people came up and said, Claire doesn't have a smoker's voice. She has a Demi Moore voice.
I don't know who that is.
You guys even know who Demi Moore is?
No.
She used to be Bruce Willis's husband.
Is that an insult?
No. She was like part of the Brat Pack, was one of the it girls in the 80s for all those 80s movies.
What does that mean, though? What is that deep? Is that high?
No, that Demi Moore had kind of a, I don't know, she had a deeper voice. I don't know how to describe it.
It's okay.
I say it's a smoker voice.
No, your daughter has a smoker's voice. Rachel.
True.
Yeah.
Speaking of smoker voices, you know who else has a smoker voice?
Who?
One of our special guests today, Megan Martin.
That's true.
Hey guys, I do in fact. If anybody has a smoker's voice, it's me.
Yeah, what the heck? You actually have a legit raspy voice all the time.
Claire, you do not have a smoker's voice. I do.
The amazing thing with your smoker voice is, how does it not affect your singing at all?
Couldn't tell you there. It adds to it. I really don't know.
Well, Megan Martin, welcome.
Hi.
Smoker voice, Megan.
Smoker voice, Megan.
Megan, so for people that are listening might not recognize your Demi Moore voice, but tell everybody where they might see you on a Sunday morning.
Yes. So I am Pastor David, our worship pastor. I am one of his interns. So usually I am standing to the right of him or, but yeah, usually on stage, standing on stage.
All right, perfect. Our other guest today is Audrey Dayton.
Hello.
Audrey, have you ever been told you have a smoker voice?
I have not, but I've told that I have a deep voice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's because we're sisters.
Oh, that's fun.
Oh my gosh, they're like Darius and Tony.
That was really cute. Where will people, if they don't recognize your voice, where would they likely see you on a Sunday?
Well, I recently took over the cafe, so you will see me if you want to get a drink. I can make you the best coffee you'll ever have. We use Visible Coffee Roasters. Shout out Visible. And you'll also just see me walking around saying hi to people. But yeah, I'm also Pastor David's intern, so I help with that. But ever since I took over the cafe, I'm more in the cafe.
Woohoo.
Well, I want to welcome all three of you. One of the things that we like to do at the end of the podcast, but we're going to do it at the beginning because Tony keeps forgetting to do it at the end, is we call this our top three. So we would like to know what are you reading? What podcast are you listening to right now? And what are you enjoying doing for fun right now? We'll start with Claire.
What I'm reading, I currently in the Bible am in the book of Deuteronomy, going through that. Moses' speech to the Israelites. And then outside of the Bible, I am reading, I honestly cannot for the life of me remember the name of the book that I'm reading. And I actually left it at the church last night and I was really upset because I wanted to read it last night. So I'll tell you the last book I read, which was called Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, about a guy who time travels and gets stuck in time. Great thriller book. Pastor Brandon would definitely enjoy it. And then what I'm...
Did you know that I really don't enjoy fantasy books at all?
No, I don't either. That's the thriller. It's not fantasy.
He goes in time.
No,
so
no,
it's
no, no, no.
sci-fi, It's totally implausible.
No, it's not sci-fi. I just read a sci-fi book called Fourth Wing, and I'm going to get blown up. I'm going to get canceled on the internet for this if this podcast goes viral. But everyone loved this book called Fourth Wing. Have you heard of it?
Yes.
Yeah.
The name itself
Yes.
is a sure sign that I would not like it.
It's very popular. It's about dragons.
Oh,
Yeah.
good grief.
And no, your daughter also loves it, and Ariel and everyone loved it. And it was a very good book, but it was not for me, unfortunately. And I started like a riot at Venture. When I told people I didn't like it, they were like, "What? How did you not like it?" And I was like, "I just not a big dragon gal."
So what are you doing for fun?
For fun, right now, Audrey and I are planning a trip to Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
So that's our fun thing, and we're very excited to go. It's
When are you guys going?
June 30th to July 6th.
Wow, that'll be fun.
So
fun
nice.
little. Audrey's graduating college, so we're calling it her graduation trip. It'll be
Is
fun.
Claire paying? It should be your graduation present.
Yep,
Yeah.
Claire's totally paying my
The
whole
thing.
trip.
So what island are you guys going to?
We're going to the Big Island. I've already been to Maui a couple times, so I don't know. I wanted to explore a different one. So,
I've never been to the Big Island. Out of every island I've been to, Maui's my least favorite.
really,
Maui's the most resorty. I like kind of more the Hawaiian feel islands, and I've been to every one of them other than the Big Island many times. But I've
Yeah.
never been to the Big Island. Every time I've planned 2 trips to the Big Island, and at the last second, Di and I found out the weather was terrible, and we pivoted to Oahu.
oh, is Oahu usually nicer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always like the different sides of the island.
Yeah.
You can always find sun somewhere. Okay, any podcast you're listening to right now?
No, I honestly don't listen to podcasts, but I truly did just listen to the last Pastors Unfiltered episode where they talked about their sabbatical. And that was very interesting. Listened to that while I cleaned the house last week. It was great. You guys should all listen to it. 10 out of 10.
All right. Megan, what about you? What are you currently reading?
Well, since I am a venture intern, I am reading the Bible. But I'm reading the book of Ecclesiastes. It's so good. 10 out of 10 recommend. But I also just finished a book. I like nonfiction books, so I read a book called Stiff. It was about human cadavers because I did want to do that for a living.
You wanted to be a human cadaver for a living?
No, sorry. I wanted to be a forensic pathologist. Thank you.
I actually don't know what a cadaver is.
Cadaver
dead
is a dead body.
A dead body that people
Megan
will
wanted
tend
to be
work on.
I wanted to be a dead body. Sorry. Anyways, yeah. So it was called
And
Stiff.
what about podcast?
I one of my favorite shows of all time is Glee, which I don't know if that makes me a nerd. Don't
Wow.
really care. But there's a podcast called Gleek of the Week.
Wow.
What is that about?
Wow. That's so nerdy.
Oh, thanks, Claire. Love you too. Anyways, it's basically where these two people. There's one guy who's seen the show like 4 million times, like I have, and then there's a girl who hasn't. And so they go through an episode or like a season a week or something, and they basically just talk about it. And it's the funniest thing I've ever listened to in my life. So
And what do you like to do for fun?
I love to sew. I actually
You sew?
I do.
Like what type of sewing?
I
You make
quilt.
dresses? Oh,
I quilt mostly, and I make blankets and pillows.
Want her to make you something?
Want me
Like
to make you a dress?
no. I don't want a dress. Here's what I want. I need this by September, so this is going to
Okay,
give you something
great.
to do. By the
Okay,
time the
cool.
season starts, I want a husky quilt.
I can totally do that, Pastor. Okay, so I just made Brittany Rosas a baby quilt for her baby girl. So,
Okay. Did it have a husky logo on it?
no, but it was purple.
Okay, well that's close. That's close. All right, Audrey, what about you? What are you reading?
Right now, also reading the Bible. I'm reading 1 Corinthians, which is really interesting.
Wow.
But I'm also reading a book called Practicing the Way by John Mark Comer. And it's about, it says on the title, it says, be with Jesus, become like him, and do as he did. And so it's really interesting. I love John Mark Comer's writing style. If you guys have ever read John Mark Comer's book, I highly recommend. He has amazing stories.
John Mark Comer, I met him in February. Yeah. He's just really sad and serious and reflective.
Wait, you met him? It seems like that based on
Oh,
his
no,
writing.
it's
Yes.
totally
How
the
did
way
you
it
meet
is.
him? Where did you meet him?
Just at some pastor's gathering. He's promoting his new book, so he's kind of in the speaking circuit. If you've listened to one of the podcasts he's been on lately, because he kind of went dark because he resigned his church and all those things. And so he has kind of gone dark because but now he's doing the circuit again. And yeah, he's just reflective. And like, he's not somebody, if you're just thinking, I want to just hang out and have fun. He's not a fun dude.
Oh, well.
Hope he doesn't listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
No, I do really like his writing, and his reflective style is great. And actually, Practicing the Ways, that's the book that kind of made him famous.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I love his books.
I just want to point out one thing, that you say his last name Comer, which is the Spanish word to eat. You always say Comer.
I do, actually.
You always
I
call
realize
that
it is
John Mark
Comer. It's Comer. I need to say it right. Oh my
Okay,
gosh.
continue.
Anyways, podcasts. I listen to the Porch podcast, if you've ever heard of that.
Oh, yeah.
It's really amazing. They're very I think it's a young adults ministry.
Yeah, it is.
And it's always just so convicting,
Yeah.
and I love their podcast.
Do you ever listen to Pastors Unfiltered?
I have before. Yes.
She's listened to the episode that I was on.
Listen to it every week.
I did. I know. I'm not really good
Several
at listening
times
to
a
podcasts.
time. No, that's okay.
I usually do when I'm driving long distances. So
I do that too.
I don't really listen to podcasts that often, if I'm being honest. But.
What do you like doing for fun, except for going on a vacation Claire's planning for you for graduation?
Well, the thing is I don't really have a lot of free time to do a lot of fun things, but I like rock climbing, so sometimes I do that. I also like working out, and I work out at Planet Fitness. So if you're ever wanting to go to the gym with me at Planet Fitness, I'm always looking for gym buddies.
Audrey's
All
like
right.
a normal girl.
I am currently, not that you asked, Claire,
What are you reading?
I'm
Pastor
currently
Brandon?
reading The Unseen Realm.
Okay.
Very interesting book. I think we're going to, maybe this fall when I'm back from sabbatical, do a teaching to our staff. So kind of me, Christian, and Di are all checking it out and reading it and things like that. So
What's it about?
it's about demons and angels and heaven and hell and the
Just
spiritual
lighthearted
realm.
stuff.
Yeah, I got to be honest. There's parts of it I'm not sure if I agree with it theologically, but I've got to wade my way through it. I'm about probably a third of the way through. But that book kind of kind of theologians and pastors is becoming all the rage right now. So we'll see. So I'm reading that. For fun, I am currently planning everything I'm going to do on my sabbatical.
Oh yeah.
So planning, and trying to make sure that the church is set for me to be gone for 3 months. So
Where are
I'm
you going?
cramming all these meetings.
Talk about your family trip.
Again, you should have listened to the podcast because I did talk about it. No, we're doing a bunch of, the first 2 months are a bunch of like 2-day trips here, 2-day trips there. So we're going to Boston, Fenway Park, because the young adults bought me tickets to Red Sox.
We did.
We're going to go to Wrigley Field, watch the Cubs play at Wrigley Field. That's kind of been a bucket list. I'm speaking at a bunch of churches, and so one of the churches that I'm speaking at, they're flying Di and I in 3 days early. We're going to Disneyland for 3 days. Ironically, when my daughter and all her friends are going to be there, so we're all going to dress the same and go on rides together.
Wow.
And Di is going to supervise all of us the whole time. Then our family is going on this kind of epic family vacation. Like if Elijah was here, Elijah would say, this is the last big vacation before there's other kids, before he's prophesying that his sister and brother-in-law might have children at some point in the future. And we are going to first Dublin, Ireland. We're going to Dublin and Belfast, and then we're flying to Zurich, Switzerland with the family. So we'll be spending like a week and a half in those places. Judah will be there. So it'll be great. Di and I are also going to Iceland.
Wow.
And then we're going to Austria.
Oh my goodness.
Then we are going to Rome and Greece.
Wow. So you're like traveling the world.
Hey, Mamma Mia. Pastor Brandon, have you seen Mamma Mia?
I don't think I'll ever see Mamma Mia.
Why not? You like Pitch Perfect. Come on.
I know. I do, but they're the same?
Pretty similar.
I don't think so. All right, let's dive into the topic at hand. Claire, you are our intern director. You and Johnny kind of co-direct our internship. Why don't you just take a moment, tell everybody what is the Venture Internship?
Yeah. So yeah, Pastor Johnny is not with us right now, but he co-leads the internship with me.
Pastor Johnny is still alive. Yeah. He is
not
on
with us
vacation
anymore.
currently.
Yeah.
He's not with us anymore.
No, I don't know why I phrased it like that.
Suddenly.
But yeah, our internship is cool. A lot of churches actually do a similar thing that Venture does, but basically Northwest University, which is located in Kirkland, they partner together with many schools across the United States, and they partner with churches across the United States. And basically what it is students who want to intern at a church, serve at a church, volunteer, can get college credit through Northwest University by serving at their church. So they are a full-time online student at Northwest, but by serving at the church and, volunteering and taking time out of their week to be at the church, they get college credit for that. So where the average student would take 6 classes a semester or however many a semester, if they went in person to Northwest, online students take only about 2 classes at a time because the rest of their credits are made up for by serving at the church. So that's pretty much what the internship is. You could be an online student and just do the online portion, or you can be an in-person intern, which is what Megan and Audrey are, and they serve at the church and are practicum students and serve under David, serve in the worship ministry, things like that.
So from your perspective, what is the greatest benefit of actually being an intern?
I mean, there are so many benefits. I would say the greatest benefit of being an intern is whether or not you want to pursue a career in ministry, whether or not, and honestly, especially even if you don't want to pursue a career in ministry, that this program refines you in a way that no other program could. So I think it teaches you extremely valuable leadership skills and other type of every type of leadership skill, how to be a better follower of Jesus, how to be a better servant, how to lead within ministry and lead outside of ministry, things like that, in a way that no other in-person college program ever could.
So transition it even to why should you do this if you want to be a full-time minister?
If you want to be a full-time minister, which many of the people who do our internship want to be in ministry, I mean, this program gives you hands-on experience. Like, if you go to college in person, so say you go to Northwest in person, which is an awesome opportunity for students, you're not getting that hands-on, I'm, meeting one-on-one with a pastor, actually being a part of a youth ministry, serving as a youth leader, like hands-on experience. You're just kind of learning it from a whiteboard in class, which is still really valuable. But I think the benefit of actually doing this, and it's called the NPP program. You might hear us say that, the Northwest Partnership Program. The benefit of doing the NPP program is that you actually get this hands-on experience where you don't get Pastor Brandon if you're at Northwest University in person. You don't get Pastor David if you're, going to college in person. So I think this partnership program is really, really valuable for people who want to go into ministry.
One of the things that, for those listening, if you're considering ministry, maybe you're evaluating, should I do an internship or not? I want to say, first off, all of these internships, even though they're through Northwest, different churches have them, they're not equal. Meaning that, and I'm really going to brag on ours, we have 2 full-time employees that this is a major part of their focus. So this is interwoven in the culture of Venture, that if you're become an intern at Venture, you become a key part of our ministry. I mean, we are training you to be ministers. Yeah. If you're a worship intern, by the time you're finished, you are going to be a desired worship pastor pretty much at churches all around, anywhere. They're constantly wanting them. Same thing with our youth ministry and our kids ministry. And here's what I would say about it. If I believe in this so much that I have not hired an employee in the last 3 years that we did not raise up from our internship. Yeah. So people always tell me all the time, you have this A+ pastoral staff. How did you do this? In fact, one of the things that I hear often is, how did you get so many high caliber young leaders on your staff? Well, they were part of our internship program. We believe in what we do. We raised them up, trained them. We can vouch for them. We know their work ethic. We know their love for Jesus, their intellect, all these different things. And it led to that. So I think the greatest endorsement I can give for this type of a program is this is where we hire our employees from, is from our internship. So they're not all the same. But if it's something like ministry you want to pursue, I think you should seriously consider it. I want to mention one last thing, and then I'll just let my guest talk. In the 90s, when I was a youth pastor, we had programs like this. They were called Master's Commission. So that was kind of all the rage. Now, a Master's Commission, the negative was they weren't accredited. So people would take what we would call Berean level courses, which they could qualify for their credentials, but they weren't transferable to any university or any college. It was basically you got a certificate. And those courses, not to demean anybody that did a Master's Commission, I really don't want to do that, but the very academically inclined students in your youth ministry were not doing your Master's Commission. They were going to go off to a university. They were going to go to a real college or something like that. The thing that I love about what we have going on is we don't have students that decided to do a Master's Commission because regular college was not an option for them. Like, we have students that would excel at the University of Washington. They'd excel if they were resident students at NU. I mean, they're students that are sharp. They're going to go on and get master's degrees level students. So I want to say that for those of you that have a preconceived idea of church-based internships and master's commissions, maybe because when you were a teenager, this is the way they were, it is not the way they are today. This is an alternative mode of education, but it is hands-on learning. Yeah. And you're going to see, as, again, 2 of our interns talk, Claire was an intern, so technically 3 of them talk, that this is something that produces really high caliber employees, ministers, human beings. Claire, Phil, really quickly, tell everybody, what is the basic schedule to be an intern at Venture? What is start with Sunday, walk us through a week.
Yeah, so it's 4 days a week. You're here Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which is definitely a lot. So being an NPP, an in-person intern, it's definitely a big commitment. But again, as the podcast goes on, you'll see that there's a lot of benefit from it. So Sundays, all interns get here around 6:30 or 6:45. And some of the interns get here at 7:30 with the rest of the staff, but I think the worship interns, you guys get here 6:30. And then after they get here, we do a big team rally. We all meet, everything like that. Okay, we're taking a picture. It's really hard to talk at the same time. Okay, anyway. I was really trying to focus on what I was saying while that whole thing was happening. So we do a rally, everything like that. So they're here at, 7:30. We're all meeting together. And then throughout the day, they do whatever their practicum responsibility is. So Arthur, our youth intern, will during second service, he'll do youth essentials and help out in the youth ministry. Or Audrey and Megan will help out wherever there's a need in worship. So that doesn't mean that they're on stage singing the whole time. Maybe it means they're holding a camera. Maybe it means they're singing, whatever. Right. So whatever your practicum is, and we'll get to that later, but whatever your practicum is, that's what you're doing on Sunday. So you're there the whole day until the day's over around 1. Monday through Wednesday, the schedule's 8:45 to 3:30. So every day from 8:45 to 9, we come together and do what we call kickoff, which is just a little Bible devotional just to get your heart right. Pastor Johnny and I lead that on different mornings. And then every day the schedule looks a little bit different, which is what I think our interns really like. So on Mondays, we have a therapist come in and she does mental health Mondays. Our interns love that with her. Shout out Heather Taylor.
Good. We love her. We love her.
And then every day we do Bible. So in the 2 years that you're an intern, you'll go through the whole Bible. So year 1 is Old Testament, year 2 is New Testament. So we do Bible time on Mondays. On Mondays, we also bring out special guest speakers for a section that we call Coaching and Development. So this is the time that we bring in pastors, leaders, business leaders, financial advisors, everything leadership, everything finances.
And let me just pause here.
Yeah.
Because of the platform that Venture has, being one of the largest churches in our state and our staff being connected to lots of the prominent ministry leaders in America. So our students are getting time one-on-one with some of the top leaders in America in this group. Not just listening to their podcast or sitting on a Zoom, but those guys or gals are sitting on a stool mentoring our students.
Yeah, it's incredible. There's not... Again, if you went to college in person, you don't get that. You have professors who are awesome and very knowledgeable, but you don't get the same real world leadership mentorship. And then every single day there's something called practicum, which practicum is basically the track that you choose to do your internship through. So we have youth practicum, which is through Pastor Johnny, the youth pastor. We have a worship practicum through Pastor David. We have a kids practicum. I was like, what's the next one? Right now, we don't have any kids interns. I think that's why I never remember it. We have kids interns, which are kids practicum with Pastor Kaylee. Next year, we're adding a missions practicum with Kelsey Fairfield and also a creative practicum with Brandon Greenwald. So that'll be really cool. But yeah, so your day really depends on what practicum you choose. So kind of after, lunch and everything, that's where you do your practicum stuff. So whether it's helping scheduling on Planning Center or if you're a kids intern, setting up the classrooms, whatever. It's hands-on ministry experience. Sometimes your practicum leaders read you through a book or teach you about, ministry stuff, culture, things like that. So,
and this is not to throw shade on anything, what I'm about to say, but I want to explain the difference. So if you're a resident Bible college student at one of the universities in America, you have to do an internship for 1 semester. That internship lasts about 3 months. It's in addition to your coursework. It's kind of an extra burden. And we have interns that are resident students at Northwest that come and serve here. And they're great. And I don't want to, again, throw shade on that whatsoever. But I'm going to be very blunt. It is not sufficient. And not even close. It is not scratching the surface in training them to do ministry. So you have students that will go to one of our major universities in America, spend tens of thousands of dollars to get a degree, and then they graduate and they still don't know how to do ministry. This does not do that. Here's the thing. A youth practicum at Venture, by the time they graduate, they are ready to be a high-level youth pastor. How do I know? Johnny was one of my youth interns. He is now my youth pastor. You do our worship ministry internship. You are going to be ready to be a worship pastor when you're done. How do I know that? David Diaz was a Venture worship intern. I mean, the list goes on and on. That by the time you are done with this, yes, you didn't get a traditional 4-year college experience, but you got enveloped in ministry. You grew as a leader and as a person. And beyond anything, you're like ready to hit the ground running, living out your calling and anointing.
100%. Yeah. And also, I think another thing is parents are, sometimes when I meet with parents, they're like, is this even a real college experience? Like, are you actually getting a 4-year degree? And I went to Northwest for 4 years. The first 2 years I was an intern, and the second 2 years I just did the online portion while I was working at at Venture. And my diploma, it doesn't say NPP program or like Venture Church. My diploma is from Northwest University. It's the same diploma that my brother got when he completed his doctorate program actually at Northwest University. So it's the same thing. It's a full-on 4-year degree. You wouldn't know by looking at my diploma that I did this like alternative type program. So it's very real.
And that is, again, as somebody who is an academic, there is no difference between doing an online program like this versus doing a resident program. In the eyes of academics, it means the same thing, that there's not like one level degree that's more important than another. This is 2024. There's alternative ways for people to get degrees now. So you do get a legitimate college degree from Northwest University. You get a walk at graduation.
Oh, yeah. Audrey's walking in just a couple months in May
4th.
Yes, Audrey.
Audrey graduates in a little bit. Okay.
To wrap up the schedule thing, basically Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are similar. They just have slightly different schedule things. So Tuesday we do something called Masterclass with Pastor Johnny. That's like hands-on, like it's basically like
leadership
what would
skills.
You do if you were a leader and this crisis happened or this crazy thing happened, like hands-on, testing you guys, giving you pointers, giving you real life scenarios. And then Wednesday at the church is where the interns actually get to sit in on staff meeting, which is really awesome that they get to be a part of that, see the staff dynamics and everything. And then they do something called chapel where they're all together. They lead one another in kind of a church service type thing. And then Wednesdays are kind of a big day for the church because that's when we have classes. That's when our youth ministry happens. So a lot of our interns are usually here Wednesday nights. So that's the week.
All right, I have some questions for you guys. You ready?
Yes.
Heck yeah.
Okay, I'll start with Megan and then go to Audrey. How's that?
Perfect.
Gosh.
Megan, why did you choose to be a Venture intern? So you were a high school senior. You were in our youth ministry. I know that. You weren't raised in church.
No, I was.
Oh, you were raised in church.
was.
Didn't you start coming to Venture like your junior year or something?
No, I started coming here in 7th grade.
I know.
Okay, well, that
she was
tells you
here
that I
a
don't know
long
anything.
time. I didn't even know her, which is so funny.
All right, so Megan is the lifer. Why did you choose to do the Venture internship?
Well, I'll never forget the first time I came to a youth service. It was actually when the Dome was still here. Shout out the Dome. Greatest building ever. I'm just kidding. But I remember that when I was invited by a friend, I literally wasn't even in the building yet. And like 10 people, like 10 students came up to me and like were like, who are you? Where, like, I've never seen you before. And that was totally different than the church experience that I had from other churches that I was at in their youth ministries. It just was different. And I loved that. I felt noticed, and like that's all anybody ever wants. And so after that, I came as many times as I could because I didn't have my license yet. But I just, every time I came, I had more and more fun. And so, and you know, these students are like my lifelong friends now anyways. But I remember eventually when the new building was built, this was like 20, when was the building built?
2021.
2021. Slay. Okay, that's when I graduated. I came to the newer building and Vinny, one of my besties for the resties, she was like, "You're going to do the internship." And I was like, "No, Vinny, I'm not. I have a full ride scholarship to Eastern Washington University. Like, I'm literally not doing that. I'm going to study forensic pathology," which we talked about earlier. And Vinny was like, "No, you're doing the internship." And I was like, "Okay, weirdo." Like, I was like,
That's so
"No,
funny.
I'm not." And then like, I'm not even joking. I remember Youth Sunday when this was the first time I'd ever talked to David, Pastor David. I remember just kind of just observing and looking around, and I was like, "Wait a second. No, I like want to be here, and I want to be poured into by the staff members that are here." And so the day that the paperwork was due for the internship, I turned it in, and that was when I became an intern.
So do you remember you were leading worship on that youth Sunday? I think you met Joe Castleberry in the lobby. So do you know, I might have told you the backstory behind that, but Joe Castleberry attends our church. He's the president at Northwest University.
Right.
And I was kind of floating in the back because I wasn't really doing much in the service because the students were in charge. And Joe came up to me when you were leading worship, and he was like, "Who is that girl? Where is she going to school?" And I said, "You know, we're actually kind of hoping she makes a decision to do the internship." And he says, "She needs to go to Northwest." And so he talked to you in the lobby. So that's a little bit of the backstory.
Yeah.
So you even had the president of NU.
Wow.
Thought you should do this.
Well, I think also a big, I mean, if you ask anybody that just actually attends Venture, I think one of the biggest things that's special about this place is you walk into the building and like everybody says this, you feel the presence of the Holy Spirit. And I think that's what I was feeling. I just didn't realize it at first when like Hayden, Kendra, like all these youth students were coming up to me saying like, "Who are you? Like, where did you come from?" And I felt so welcomed, and like who doesn't want to stay in a place where you feel welcomed and loved? So
Yeah, that's
that was
great.
like a big thing.
Audrey, what about you? What made you choose the internship?
Oh, I have so much to say. This has been the most incredible 2 years of my life, and I genuinely mean that. But when I was in 6th grade, Claire invited me to come to the youth group at Canyon Creek Church in the Dome. And I'd been kind of floating around youth groups because of my parents. But I came because Claire asked me to, and Erica had invited Claire and she loved it. And so I was like, okay, I'll go. So I was kind of coming. I came on a Tuesday night, and I think we were doing like a all church worship night or something. And I was in 6th grade. I had no idea what it was, but I remember walking into the Dome in 6th grade, and I am not trying to be like over spiritual. I mean, I was in 6th grade. Like, I don't know how much I understood about like the Holy Spirit, but I remember feeling like this is different than any other youth ministry that I've ever been to. And I had been going to a lot of different ones, and I felt super like excluded from other groups of people and friends. But the next night we had youth group, and Claire was like, "Okay, well, you should come to youth group the next night." So I came, and I remember Ariel coming up to me, and Micah and all of these youth students like saying hi to me, just like Megan said, like, and it was the most interesting and welcoming experience that I'd ever had at a youth ministry. And I remember being like, wow, I genuinely like coming here, because my parents had just made me go, but now I was like excited to go to youth group. I'd never felt that way before. And I remember just meeting all these really cool people. And so throughout high school, I didn't know what college I wanted to go to. So senior year, I actually applied to Grand Canyon because all my friends were going to go there. I didn't care about college. I just knew that I should get my degree because that's what my older siblings were doing. That's what my dad said to do.
And
too.
you already had your AA.
Oh, yeah. And I did. I graduated high school with my associates because I did running start. So I was kind of like ahead of the game. So I was like, oh, it's only 2 years. I'll just go to Grand Canyon. That's where all my friends are going. And I remember people asking me like, oh, like, what about the internship at church? Because you like being there. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, I'm not going to do the internship. Like, I don't want to be a pastor. Like, I don't want to be in ministry. I remember one day my dad and I were talking about finances for Grand Canyon. We were having a conversation at Visible, and I asked him, I was like, Dad, what do you think I should do? Because I'm kind of conflicted. I want to go to Grand Canyon, but I'm not sure. And in the middle of that conversation, he was saying, Audrey, I think you should do the internship. And I was like, I don't, that doesn't make sense. That has always been a last resort to me. It was always kind of just in the back of my mind, but I never thought I was actually going to do it. And in the middle of that conversation, I receive a call from my Grand Canyon University rep saying, hey, Audrey. And he hadn't called me in like 6 months. We were pretty much set to go. He called me in the middle of that conversation. He was like, hey, you need to pay your deposit for your dorm room, like right now, if you want to go. And I remember hanging up and I was like, Dad, well, what do you think that means? Like, does that mean I'm supposed to go to Grand Canyon? He said, no, you're supposed to do the internship. Like, that was a distraction from the enemy. Like, that is not where you're supposed to go. And that was
a good man.
That was the turning point. Is my dad had never really said for me to go to the internship, but all of a sudden his heart was softened and he led me, like he guided me to do it. And that was the best decision I've ever made. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't even want to go into ministry, and I didn't want to become a pastor or lead people or be a leader. I just knew I wanted to get my degree, and I was like, well, like, what can I lose? Like, the moment, like, giving 2 years to God is the best thing that I could do. I will never lose 2 years if I give it to the Lord. And that's what Claire and my dad said to me, is the worst thing that would happen is that you learn about the Bible, you give 2 years to God, and then maybe you can go to college after that. So I said, okay, I'll try it. And I did.
This is a great example of your older sibling had a really good experience and it caused life change in her that your parents were like witness of and thankful for, so they would encourage their younger daughter to do it. So that says a lot. So I remember when I first met you, when I was first getting to know you, do you remember what I used to always say to you? I'm just curious if you even remember.
There's nothing you can do that will make me not like you, Audrey.
What?
I am so shocked you remember
I
that.
was so sassy. In 6th grade, I would just look at him with this glare.
Audrey did not understand the concept of like, this is our lead pastor. We need to like actually respect him. Audrey was so sassy.
I was.
The fact that like I would be like, and the irony was when I first met Claire, like she was probably 16. I was like, this is the sassiest girl I've ever met.
Friends in the family. I
Then you took Claire's sassy and multiplied
That's
it,
true.
and that was Audrey.
Yes.
And I was just
apologize.
like, every time I would see Audrey, I would think, this girl hates me.
Yeah.
That is so funny.
I'm so
stand me.
sorry.
And somehow he
And then
still
I
liked
just
you.
decided, but I just love the Daytons. So I've already decided that I like her. So I said, every time I see Audrey,
funny.
I'm going to say, no matter what you do, I'm going to like you.
That's
Every
hilarious.
time since 6th grade, he has always said that. And I always wondered, why is he saying that to me? Like, I do like him, but I just always glared at him. So
Every
I don't
time.
know.
And I saw her at Visible, saw her at church, nothing you can do. It'll make me not like you. And it's true.
Okay, that's funny because I was literally terrified of you for like,
Me?
yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, that's our head pastor. I can't do anything wrong.
Like this is what I always tell people about me, and you guys obviously know me now. Because a lot of people, they just see me on the platform, and you know when a preacher, pastor is ministering on a platform, he's ministering under an anointing, and so that provides this level of heaviness when that person communicates and things. And so that provides a level, I guess, of, I'd say, intimidation. But I am not intimidating whatsoever.
No, I learned that you like the movie Battleship, and we became instantly friends.
Oh. As soon as everybody found out Pitch Perfect is my favorite movie, it kind of changed everything. So I will also say this to you, Audrey. My wife has taught Bible, and everybody loves Bible with Di. They love it. It's every intern that we've had for 10 years talks about Bible with Di.
That's true.
Di has said, you are one of the most biblically knowledgeable student interns that she's ever had in the history of the internship.
Oh, wow. I'm honored.
Wow, that goes back 10 years.
That's, I don't know. Maybe, that's crazy. I did spend the first, when I really gave my life to Jesus, it was probably around senior year. I had been living my parents' faith. And I think when I started reading the Bible for myself, I was like, whoa, there's so much more to these stories. I had only known Moses because of like elementary school teachings. And when I actually opened up my Bible and like read the context, it blew my mind of how much I learned. And I think I learned a lot before I joined the internship. I think God was preparing me for the internship, which is really interesting. It's really amazing.
So, Megan, what's been your favorite part of being an intern?
Oh boy. There are literally so many. We just did the chapel, our last chapel for this year. We literally we kind of reflected on this past year, and it was really fun. But I think one of my favorite parts about being an intern is I learn more and more about my work ethic. Every time we have an event. And also, like, I've learned more about how much I actually love people and how I love being in community. And so, like, for example, a lot of the interns get to help at a lot of the church events. So, like, we've done, like, an egg hunt before for, like, Easter. And we've done the church vision meeting where we help serve dinner. And nothing brings me more joy than that, because we get to just act like complete fools together, but also it's like super important for the mission of God in those events when it probably doesn't seem like it in the moment because we're like la da da, but it truly is. We just get to help our church community. So I think like the events that interns get to help at, yes, we are required, but as the years goes on, like me and Audrey are, well, you're technically a fourth year, but anyways, like I'm in third year, and every year they get more fun. And I look at it less as like, I'm required to do this. I look at it as like, I've had this on my calendar for like 3 months now, and I can't wait for it. So,
Which is true.
Yeah.
What about you?
I would say Claire mentioned about the coaching and development classes on Mondays. I think those are the most unique things ever. I have never learned more like leadership skills and practical life skills in my life than I've ever learned in these 2 years. And I guarantee at any other college, showing up to your classes every day can become so mundane and so redundant. But when you're sitting in front of a leader that you respect, or a teacher or a pastor like Pastor Johnny when he does master class teaching us leadership skills, it is so unique. And also they ask you questions about yourself, like questions that will help you reflect on who you are at the core. And that I don't think any professor at a university would do that. They don't have that relationship with their students, but all the pastors and leaders here do. And they ask questions, hard questions that challenge you personally, me personally. So yeah, the leadership classes are incredible. I think just learning how to do the hard things. Yeah. I think in college, I would never actually gone to college, but I can imagine that it's very easy to slink back into a routine. But for this, you're required to be immersed in this culture and put your heart into it, because you can't not fake it.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like in the internship, we've had students before who have joined the internship because they've maybe been forced to, or this was like an alternative option. And you can tell because they hate their experience because they're not actually fully immersing themselves in the culture and like actually, and it's so hard. It's so hard as an intern not to love it every day.
Yes. Right.
Like we've had interns who have been like, yeah, I don't know if I really like this program or whatever. And it's because they haven't really actually put in anything. So they're not getting out anything. But I agree with you, Audrey. You are constantly immersed in the culture of Venture just by being at staff meeting and by being poured into by the church leaders and stuff like that. It's hard not to love it.
Yeah, and that's good.
Even more than that, I think those skills that you use, like being poured into with pastors, you're not just using at Venture and just for the Venture people. You're using it in your workplace. I'm using it at Visible when I ring people up. Like I'm getting to know them and almost discipling them in a way, like my customers, which is so, I would never have known to do that. I would have never looked at people in that way. And I think the internship teaches you how to look at people in a new way and how to look at yourself in a new way and hold yourself with integrity and have a heart that wants to work hard, a heart that wants to put like their all into the internship. So yeah, it's really amazing.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah, I think we've learned over the 10 years of doing this that it's really complicated to be a full-time intern when you don't, I would say maybe you don't start at the beginning thinking this is the church I love because maybe there was another church that you're a part of and home is where the heart is, things like that. But you have to choose to fully engage and love everything to get the most from this. Like I always, whenever I'm talking to prospective interns, I say there's going to come a day you're going to want to help out occasionally at dinner church, lead worship. You're going to want to help, and you're not going to do this because you're assigned to. You're just going to want to. And so you're going to want to go to YA. You're going to want to pour your life into the people here for the season that you have here, because you're never going to get an opportunity like this for the rest of your life. So you might as well completely dive in. And we had, like years ago, we had a crew of interns. This is when we were still deciphering our strategy, and now we're a lot more targeted, and we care about really not necessarily the quantity of interns, but more the caliber of interns and the potential of them. But when we were throwing out a very broad net, we would have interns that were serving at the church that resented having to serve at the church. And that just changed the entire spirit of everything. And it made it much less enjoyable for the staff. But the intern, like I would say interns we've had for the last 5 years have been very, they love the church. They're very honoring of the pastors. And all it does is it makes the pastors want to engage and invest more in them. So it's kind of this give and take relationship. So, Megan, how have you grown in the 3 years that you've done the internship?
I think actually a lot of it is what Audrey said, and we've talked about this a lot, and it's really cool to see. But something that I love about being able to grow is it's like I've never been here at the building from 8:45 to 3:30 and gone, I'm so bored. What am I doing here? There's always a challenge, and our leaders hold us accountable. And I think that's super important for the growth that I've experienced. And like Audrey said, though, the leadership skills I've been able to take away and use in my workplace, or just like meeting new people I don't even know, is insane. I don't even realize it in the moment, but I walk away from certain
Situations.
Yeah, situations. Thank you. And I am like, hold on, that I totally just used a skill that I learned from the leaders that I really look up to. And again, though, that would not have happened and doesn't happen because Claire and Johnny, or you, Pastor Brandon, or David sit back and go, yeah, like go read your Bible and we'll, come back and talk about it, or, just do whatever you want. And that sounds aggressive, but like, I never know what to expect for Practicum because David wants us to grow and learn new things and stay on our feet. And Claire and Johnny always want to challenge us and, give us a sermon illustration. We're like kind of peeing our pants because we're not used to doing that, but it's all about the accountability. And I am grateful for it every single day because I'll walk away and know that I was poured into until my cup was literally overflowing. So like ridiculous amounts. Yeah. Like I have like 4 pitchers.
That's so true. Yeah.
Well, have you grown?
I agree with her. I think it is all about the accountability. I remember, last year there was times where I wasn't very engaged and I kind of just view it as like, oh, I'm just doing this. Even though I knew I was supposed to be here, I kind of was like, oh, I don't know if I want to go into ministry. And so why am I like, I'll just get my degree done. And David, Pastor David, he saw my heart and he said, hey, like, I know you're doing the right things, you're saying the right things, but I can tell your heart's not in it. And I know it is like the most unique thing to have leaders and pastors who like know that about you. That is incredible. Right. And that's so Holy Spirit like driven. No other leader or pastor would know that unless the Holy Spirit was like in it. And so that's how you can tell the Holy Spirit's within this church. But I remember from that moment on changing my perspective and just saying like, even if I'm not a pastor, these skills can help me shepherd and lead people, which I'll do my whole life if I love Jesus. And so it's just so unique, these skills that you can't get anywhere else. And I think one way that I've grown is just my view of people. As I said before, I kind of thought that I was like the main character, the center of attention my whole life. And so knowing that like I'm here on this earth to serve and I get to serve is a perspective I've never had until this internship, until kind of being corrected and being like, hey, you're not the center. Like, this is not all about you.
Yeah.
And being corrected and shepherded by the pastors and leaders in my life has been incredible. That's one way I've grown.
And it is unique to be in an environment where you can be held accountable, corrected and shepherded, but it's done by people that you know believe in you.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's
So when you guys reflect back, and for you have been an intern for 3 years, you have your fourth year next year. You, because of your running starts, 2 years. Do you feel like you have, do you feel like you are a different person from having done this?
Absolutely.
Want to go first, Audrey?
Yeah, I am not the same person. I wouldn't be the same person. I would still be living.
No, even from the way that Audrey came
Yeah.
in the internship, like, okay, literally from the way Audrey looked 2 years ago to the way she
my
looks
God.
now.
That's true.
Like, just everything. I feel like God has come, not like she looked weird, just you dressed a lot differently.
I didn't care.
You didn't really care.
I didn't care.
And now I feel like you have changed
Yes,
a lot.
thank
As
you.
your sister, like, I have seen incredible growth in you, but also just literally even physically, like, I feel like everyone around you can see that you have.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's like that
Really
with all the
developed.
interns too.
Yes, that's also
we've
true.
all like changed and
Yeah.
grown and like grown from our immature ways. And I think the season in college, like the first 2 years, you grow and learn so much about yourself. But especially if you have people investing into you, that makes it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. I think something I like reflecting back, my overall confidence has just gotten better. And it's not just like, oh, I'm confident because I can do this. It's my confidence in who the Lord has called me to be and who he says I am. That was something that I really struggled with. And again, the accountability from my leaders telling me they, like you said, Pastor Brandon, they believe in us. So the very fact that someone who doesn't have to, someone who believes in me like that really changed the way that I looked at myself and looked at my life and where I was going. And I'm so grateful for that. And, David doesn't have to believe in me. Claire doesn't have to believe in me. No one is making them, but that's just so cool.
They choose
They choose to.
Yeah.
And they see what I don't see a lot of times. And I'm super grateful for that.
Yes,
And
that's so true.
So this time I'll ask all three of you this question. So reflecting back on your experience doing this, all three of you could have gone to 4-year universities. You easily would have gotten into any of them. You chose to do this. Claire obviously is finished and now has been working. Audrey's about to finish. Megan's got another year, but you've been enraptured in this. What would you say to a high school senior that's considering doing the internship, why they should? Claire.
I would just say you got to do it. I would say you can go to a 4-year university and have a really fun time. You can be a part of the Greek system, or you can join fun clubs. You can live in a dorm. You can go live somewhere new that you've never lived and get an incredible experience from that. And then what?
yeah.
Like, you come home in 4 years and the crisis of many college students, not all, but many, and I would even venture out to say a majority of them, come home after 4 years and say, what do I do? Like, a lot of them have trouble finding jobs. A lot of them have trouble knowing what's next. A lot of them are like, I've been living in this weird like fantasy world almost for 4 years. And now like I actually have to like live in the real world where I don't just have friends who are my neighbors on my right and left and going to parties and whatever. I think that if you are somebody considering the internship, that saying yes to this is going to be the best decision you make in your entire life. And I really mean that. Like, this can change everything about your life. It can change where you live. It could change who you end up marrying. It could change, it'll change your relationship with Jesus. Absolutely. And so if you're somebody considering it, I will say, yes, going away to a 4-year is an incredible experience. But if even part of you is like, man, this would be a cool thing, maybe I should do the internship, I will say I can guarantee that if you put in the effort and do the internship and give it your best try, you will get out more than what you even put in. Mm-hmm. You will get out far more. And like Megan said, your cup will be overflowing. There has not been a single intern who has graduated our program who has literally, let me know if you guys can think of one. There has not been one intern who has graduated our program who has said to me or Johnny or David or Tony, you know, I don't know, that was a good experience, but I don't feel much different than when I came in.
Yeah, no. I don't think there's anything.
It'll change your life and you'll be a much better version of yourself than you
And one of the things that I talk to people about when they're making the transition from whether it's a secular profession to working in ministry, I always say that ministry in people's eyes becomes kind of almost dreamy, like because they only see leading worship, they only see speaking or teaching classes. Right. But again, one of the things too, like that equipped you is you saw, I always call it seeing underneath the hood, like seeing the inner workings, which sometimes is a surprise to people because they realize, oh, this is an organization. It's run like a business. Now it's a spirit-filled faith organization, but there's still those elements. I mean, there's budgets, there's work weeks, there's bosses and expectations, and you get called on the carpet if you show up late, or there's dress code requirements, you know, all these different things. So you see underneath the hood, but the internship, it prepares you for that. So when you jump into ministry, you're not surprised.
Definitely. I agree. I would say you will never regret giving 2 years to God, learning about the Bible. And you're not even just learning about the Bible, like you're getting an accredited degree, but you will never waste 2 years giving it to the Lord. He will return it to you. Like Claire said, he will overflow your cup, and you will grow with Jesus like you've never been able to. You will never be able to at a 4-year university, because simply you're getting poured into by leaders who care about you and who know you and know your story and can keep you accountable, and that's different than a 4-year university. And yeah, I just would say, just do it. And if you don't like it, then stop doing it. But just try it. Like, it's really not gonna, it's also not very expensive, like compared to other things. So it's just a great deal, and prepares you for the future. So
I agree.
Yeah, the number one question that I always get asked by seniors or people that are wondering what I do 4 days a week is, why are you always there so often? Or, you know, why are you always so busy? You know, it's the church. And something that I tell them is, you know, I made a decision, and just like you, I am at the church. You know, maybe you're at the library or you're doing sports. It's the same thing. It's just church. And I don't want them to be like, you know, you're stuck here. And then I'd look at them and go, okay, well, you're stuck doing, you know, what your degree is or whatever. But they just always wonder why I'm here so often. But that's what I usually counter it with, like, well, you're stuck there or whatever. I'm just kidding. But if they ask me, I say that, and I say, well, like you, I'm just doing what my degree entails and what I'd signed up for. But also the number one thing that when Tony was the intern director, when I was a freshman, he told us was, this is going to be one of the hardest things you ever do. It's not easy. And I'm so glad that Tony didn't sugarcoat that, because there are times when it is so hard and it's exhausting, and you have to talk to people when you don't want to. But again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it seriously is.
That's life.
It turns into the joy of your life because you get to talk to these people and hear what's going on in their lives. And you turn around and you see this giant community backing you up because you decided to do an internship that is super hard, that requires you to talk to people and look at what you have now. You have all these people that genuinely care for you. And so it's very hard, but again, like all three of us have said, it's something that you do not regret. You don't regret it at all. So
I always say like young ministers when they started a church, there's really two things they're not used to besides the seeing underneath the hood of a church. Is they're not used to the rhythm. And the rhythm of a church, like, and you guys have experienced this as interns, that you ramp up for Easter and you've got all these rehearsals for Easter, and then you do it and it's super fun. Like, there's thousands of people here. Then Monday rolls around, and guess what? Then there's a Sunday the next week. And then there's a Sunday the next week. And so so we have a revival night, and it's super fun, and we prepared for it. And maybe we had a full choir that you guys were singing in and helping participate. Oh, and then once we do it, it's super fun. And then there's the next week. And so people are not used to that. So it's like the church world is, you have to like monitor your highs and lows, because if you have too much energy put into a high, you crash afterwards, but then there's a Sunday coming. And so you kind of learn these rhythms. Same thing with working in the youth ministry, the young adult ministry, all of these things. So I think that is a big one with it. But the other part with it is you learn to kind of enjoy that process.
Right.
Like you kind of know what to expect.
Yes.
And I think that's really important. And I would say for you guys, like our interns, they are interwoven in the strategy for the church. Like, we as pastors have learned to entrust leadership to you guys. So you guys, so that was what I was going to say is the second key thing that people struggle with, is they don't understand the weight of this. Like, there's like when you go, like when you're involved running the cafe on Easter weekend, when we have thousands of people wandering through here, you're helping lead worship, and there's thousands of people. That is like, you guys are stinking 20-year-olds. And you have that much weight and pressure on you, and people in their 30s struggle with that and are overwhelmed by it. But you guys learn it now, and you learn to kind of reap the joy of it.
Yes. One difference that I've noticed between four-year university students and us is endurance. We've learned how to have perseverance and endurance and grit through doing the hard things, even when we don't want to. We've learned to have an eternal mindset, and I think that's so different than your mindset when you're at college. Like, I just don't think you have that mindset, because you're just like, oh, I'm just getting my degree. But here you're like, I'm getting my degree and I'm getting lessons on how to lead people and shepherd people. That's so different than anywhere else.
Yeah, my favorite thing was, it was a while ago, I was like, I think it was staff meeting. I was like, Claire, where are the interns? Well, they're on spring break. And I was like, wait a second, didn't I just see them all the other day? And they were like, well, they didn't have to be here, but they were here. No, it's always really cool and encouraging for us. To wind this down, Claire, how do people that are listening to this get more information about the internship?
Well, firstly, you can email internship. I don't think firstly is a word.
It's okay. Keep going.
Internship at ourventure.church. You can email that email, and I will give you all the next steps. Or you could follow us on Instagram at Our Venture Interns. And if you click the link in our bio, there's an application there. But I would definitely say email, and you'll get more information.
Well, girls, thanks for taking time, coming in on a non-intern day.
Wow. What can I say? I just
come
love to
into
be
the
here.
church and record this podcast. And I do want to say, we really love you guys, and we really appreciate you guys. And more than anything, as the pastor of the church, I am very proud of you guys, and I love bragging about you guys.
Thank you so much.
You too, Claire.
Aw.
We want to thank you for listening to this week's Pastors Unfiltered. Next week, Tony Matar will be back from whatever it is Tony is doing, and maybe he'll tell us what he was doing. Thank you guys for listening. Judah, to conclude, give us one.
Raiders roll.
Thank you. We'll see you next week. Jesus is the hope of the world.